Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Libra for September 2015. Go to my website, aspiritualspark.com, to see more about my current offerings and also to sign up for my free email newsletter, which makes you part of my community and comes with all kinds of perks. So what do we have going on in September? Woo! We've got a crazy eclipse time, plus we've got Venus retrograde, and we have Mercury retrograde, and we have birthdays for some of you, so let's just talk about all of it. Let's talk about birthdays first. If you have been watching my horoscope since your last birthday, then you know that your birthday time is a magical portal that can bring you closer to the life of your dreams. Birthday wishes, like many things that astrology doesn't get credit for, are astrologically based. The sun in the sky represents what you want. Each of the planets represents something within the charts. They have their own spectrum of effects and spectrum of representation. And the sun represents desires and wants. So wherever the sun is in your chart, this shows the things that you want. So when the sun in the sky gets back to the same point that it is in your chart, a portal is opened where the universe is more receptive to your desires. So you want to say you want to make your birthday wishes. You get 10 of them. You say them out loud. You write them down first. Get clear on them. You say them out loud. And most importantly, you feel them as if they're coming true. I cannot tell you how important this is. We can, especially for Libras, because Libra energy is very mental. It is very fast, but it can also get very stuck in mental loops. And if you're thinking too much about something instead of feeling about it, this can interfere with your manifestation capacities. So you want to get out of your head, unless you're doing visualizing that spills into the rest of your body with feeling your wishes as if they're already true. This is one of the huge keys to manifesting. So use it on your birthday. Okay, so we also have to talk about the fact that for the 4 weeks before your birthday, you have the sun in your 12th house. So you can just look on a calendar and see whatever day your birthday is. For the 4 weeks roundabout before your birthday, the sun is in your solar 12th house. And when that happens, that can bring up a lot of unconscious fears, flare up addictions, make certain patterns that have been negative come up to be reevaluated. There's a super strong emphasis, not just for this 4 weeks before your birthday, but in general for Libras, there's a huge emphasis on the 12th house, and that is brought to us by the eclipses. And I'm going to get into that, but what I'm about to talk about, you're going to hear a theme that's continued throughout the rest of the reading, because for many of you, the solar eclipse is going to take place in the 12th house, and it's joined there for many of you by Jupiter and joined there for many of you by the sun. This is a huge emphasis in this area. So the 12th house is your house of the deep unconscious. While all aspects in the chart, all planetary placements in a chart, can show us some unconscious defaults, the 12th house is the house of the deep unconscious, and the place where patterns and fears and addictions and past life issues and genealogical problems that have carried forth into this generation are really very well housed. And so anything that's a problem there that we tend to sweep under the carpet is going to be brought out. And so this theme is also supported by the fact that all retrogrades bring things out from under the rugs and out behind the, stoves and all the other places where there's nasty, dirty, greasy things that we avoid. Retrogrades bring them out. So Mercury retrograde is doing that. Venus retrograde is doing that. The sun in your solar 12th house is doing that. So anything that you have tried to avoid that you don't want to look at is going to be right there for you to see. Now you might think, what's great about that? If you're not framing this correctly, and if you're not aware that this is what's going on, it could feel like a not very great experience. But how you frame it can change how you experience this. And I want to make a quick aside about this topic, because this is so important, and then we'll get back to this 12th house. So, and it actually is very much related to the 12th house, because the 12th house is the place where you ask one of the places where you ask really big questions and really deep questions. And one of those questions, if it isn't already, should be, how can I make my life better? And you can answer that question with a lot of the things I'm talking about today. Okay, so one of them has to do with this movie called The Happy Movie, and you can look this up online. I got it from the library. Maybe you'll have it at your library too. The Happy Movie is a documentary where they're showcasing some scientific research that they've been doing for a long time. And also they are going to different countries and interviewing people on the topic of happiness. So one of the things that they found with their research is that about 50% of what makes someone tend to be happy or not is genetic. They're calling it genetic, of course. I call a big portion of that also astrological, because astrology covers genetic things, but there's also some other things about our astrology that aren't genetic. Our soul's energy doesn't necessarily always have anything to do with our bloodline. So anyway, they're calling it genetic. 50% of how you look at things is genetic. 10% of your happiness is circumstantial. Now that's kind of a surprising statistic, because you would think that someone's circumstances, if they're really bad, could be a very all-encompassing reason why they could be happy or unhappy. But their research shows that only 10% of circumstances, your job, what's going on in your relationships, etc., are part of what makes you happy or unhappy. Then another 40% they're calling choice. A decision that you make, how you frame something, can dramatically affect how you experience something and what winds up happening and what the outcome is and what your quality of experience is. So you have an amazing opportunity at this time to check into how you're framing things and how you want to frame things, and is how you're framing things consistent with the life that you want to have. So back to the 12th house. Now the sun, when it does this transit, it activates all of these fears and worries and concerns and thoughts. But this is purposeful, because once the sun moves over your ascendant into the first house, which happens on your birthday and, you know, right after your birthday, then you're rebirthed and you have this whole new chapter that gets to open, a whole clean slate. So if you have all these things come up showing you where there are problems and you take active steps towards resolving them, then your rebirth can be even more profound. And that's the best use of the energy. So we have that going on. Then we've got the Venus is still in retrograde. If you haven't already watched my Venus retrograde video, you really want to do that, because Venus rules love and beauty and money and aesthetics and design, and love and money are two of the things that people most ask me about and that seem to be most on people's minds. And when you have the planet that rules those things going backwards, there's a lot of do's and a lot of don'ts. So definitely search for Venus retrograde on my station, Annie Botticelli, on YouTube, and watch that, because I did a very comprehensive video on what to do, what not to do, what you can do about things if you have to do what you're not supposed to do, etc. Okay, so Venus is going to go direct on September 6th, but the shadow period lasts until October 9th. So the whole month of September is very much shrouded in this Venus retrograde energy. Shrouding makes it sound bad, but I mean it more cloaked. It's cloaked in this energy. So this is not a time where you're going to have clarity that you're desiring. More and more news might be coming in, and you might be vacillating about things, but it's not the time to make huge decisions. That time is more towards the end of October. Okay, so if you're considering something, if you're trying something on, that's fine. If you're reassessing things, that's perfect. But try to hold off on making a final decision on what you're assessing until the end of October. Venus retrograde wants you to do that. Mercury retrograde wants you to do that. Mercury goes retrograde on September 17th, and it stays retrograde until October 8th. But then on either side of these retrogrades, we have shadow periods. I always think of the shadow periods like if you have to make a U-turn and you're slowing down to make a U-turn. That's like the shadow period before. And then after you make the U-turn and you're kind of like getting back up to speed, that's the shadow period afterwards. So it's like you start out cruising along and a fast speed and everything's flowing, and then the retrograde shadow starts and it kind of gets awkward and just slows down. And it's like that. So you really want to understand these energies, because they dramatically affect everything in your life. And Mercury specifically affects communication and transportation, which is a huge all-encompassing part of our experience. So again, I just did an updated Mercury retrograde video that gives you all the do's and don'ts and what you would be good to consider if you have to do something you're not supposed to do during Mercury retrograde, how to cover your butt. So you can search for that video, Mercury retrograde, in my channel as well. But that's going to be covering all of September. So in general, retrogrades are not times to make final decisions. They're not times to make big commitments. They're not times to make agreements. They're not times to sign papers. And the eclipses are also times that it isn't good to do those things either, because eclipses bring in this sudden news, things that come out of the blue. And you could be committing to something one week, and then the eclipse brings something in, and you'll say, oh gosh, I can't do that, but you made a commitment. And that's why we don't make the commitments during that time. So your commitment time is going to come more towards at least the middle, but that more towards the end of October. The Mercury retrograde shadow period started August 29th. Mercury retrograde starts September 17th, goes through October 8th, and the post-shadow period goes through October 24th. Okay, so then we have the solar eclipse at 20 degrees of Virgo on September 13th, and then we have the lunar eclipse at 4 degrees of Aries on September 27th. Eclipses have their influence starting way before the event actually happens. So if you ever have watched an eclipse, don't watch solar eclipses because they're not good for your eyes, but if you've ever watched a lunar eclipse, then you know that the event doesn't take all that long to watch. But the influence of that event is really long, and there's all these umbrellas and sub-umbrellas of influence of eclipses. They're incredibly important in astrology. So up to 6 weeks before the actual event, you can start getting news or information or inklings or pieces that are coming in that are going to show you the themes or carry along a continuation of themes already started from a previous part of the cycle. The bigger part of an astrological cycle we look at to see when that polarity, so in this case we've got the Aries Libra polarity still moving forward. We've got the fall 2015 eclipses, and then spring 2016 is the end of the Aries Libra polarity that started in 2013. So there's a theme that's been running through 2013 with these eclipses, and the last time this happened was between 2004 and 2006. So you might notice that certain elements of what happened during that time have come back again. And these are the bigger pictures of the eclipses that we look at. It's like the big, the big picture. Then we drill down to what is the story of Aries and Libra. Aries is me, Libra is we. Whenever you have eclipses in the polarity of your sign, as you have had for this time since 2013 and going through spring of 2016, started in 2013 going through spring of 2016, then it's a lot of radical change is happening for you as a sign, because the eclipses are happening in places that are really close to your being, that really dramatically affect you. So Libra is the we, Aries is the me, so your relationship to relationship and your relationship to self is being dramatically redefined, and that's one of the themes. And these eclipses are going to carry you along further on that theme. Then in spring of 2015, we started the Pisces Virgo eclipses, which go through 2017. And that has to do with the seen versus the unseen, form versus formless, chaos versus order. And in many cases, the body-mind connection and things having to do with mental health, emotional health, and physical health. This is a polarity that very much rules your body and your mind and how they're related to each other. So we have that theme. So many of you are going to have the lunar eclipse happen in your 6th house. The lunar eclipse closes energy, or it brings an event, or it takes something away. And then the solar eclipse energy brings in new energy. It opens a chapter, it opens a window. It's like a new moon and full moon in triplicate. The solar eclipse happens at the new moon, and it's like the energy of 3 new moons. So like new beginnings times 3. And then the lunar eclipse happens on the full moon, and that's like an ending, a closing, a completion, an event of significant emotional importance. And that happens times 3. So it's really intense. Sometimes it takes up to 6 months for the story that is started at this eclipse to fully run its course. So things happening now are showing a theme to come, and if you pay attention, they're also continuing a theme that was. All these things are going on at once. It's fascinating. So many of you are going to have something happen to you physically or in someone in your proximity that affects you dramatically and makes you completely rethink things. Some people, this is going to be a health event or crisis. Some people, this is going to be something like that in someone close to you. It could be someone in your workplace. The sixth house very much rules your workplace. It's like your office or your day-to-day experience. So depending on what you do every day, your sixth house is going to look a little bit different. It's the house of mundane reality. It's just, you know, what your day-to-day looks like. So it could be if you go to yoga every day, it could be someone at your yoga studio. If you go to school every day, it could be someone at school. But something may happen to someone close to you or to your health that jolts you into exploring things in a different way and looking at different things in a different way. So where the opening is happening is in your subconscious mind. And if you really delve deep into the mysteries of the unconscious mind, you will find there restorative and healing power, possibly that you were not aware of, or possibly to a stronger degree than you were aware of before. There's so much power there in the unconscious mind. An example of something that you may find is something like laughing, the restorative power of laughter. This is something that isn't really practiced very consciously by most people, but I have heard of people healing cancer from laughing, from going on a brigade where they watch happy movies and watch happy things and look at things that are funny, and they laugh and laugh and laugh, and the things that are secreted in your body from that energy actually are antagonistic to cancer cell growth. Things like that. The power of the body, the power of the mind, the power of the emotions to heal is a huge theme that's being opened up for you. For people who are interested in past life regression, people who are interested in hypnosis, this is a glorious opening for you. And if you're not interested in those things, you might have something happen that gets you interested in those things. Also, this 12th house and also the 6th house, these are the energies of meditation. The 6th house rules the discipline involved with meditation, and the 12th house rules the places where you go in meditation and what you can do with meditation. But an opening of a meditation routine, I personally believe that if people really want to get on their path as strongly as possible, that dedicating themselves to a daily meditation routine has to be part of that. And you've got to commit to it just like you commit to everything else you do every day. You do it no matter what. No matter what, you do your meditation routine. This could open you up to that. There's something else I wanted to say about that. There's the subconscious mind. Oh, it's a place of sabbatical and rest and quiet as well. So if you have been very busy in your day-to-day workplace or day-to-day work life, the lunar eclipse could come and end whatever that was, whatever was so busy or whatever you were so wrapped up in the day-to-day, and it could leave more time with or make you feel inspired to go on sabbatical, go on retreat, go to a quiet place, spend more time just in your quiet space, in nature, something like that, where it's like quiet and secret as opposed to busy and public. The 6th house is also the house of secrets in some ways, and doing things behind the scenes. So collaborations that are done behind the scenes that aren't ready to be unveiled, those are very well indicated with this opening in the 12th house as well. Some of you later degree placements are going to have some of this opening energy actually be in your 11th house. And the 11th house is the house of groups, humanitarian efforts, teams, social media, social groups, whether they're in person or on the internet-related things, internet-related businesses. So that opening could be very much in one of those places, a new club, or working with a group, or working with one of these things, or working with, new internet-related things. If you do have to launch something, you do want to launch something, even though the eclipses are happening in September, I do not recommend launching in September for multiple reasons. But your energy for launching is going to become better in the middle of October, better towards the end of October, and then all of this stuff will kind of shake down, where the pieces will come in, the clarity will come in, the direction will come in. But this month is a time to respond to things that happen in a way that doesn't commit you or bind you into a long-term commitment, because changes are happening rapidly and you don't have a very good sense of what you can really commit to. So it's better to avoid any of it if you can. If you can avoid planning much that month at all, this month at all, it would be even better. So if you'd like some assistance in navigating through the astrological waters, go to my website, aspiritualspark.com, and you can see more about my personal coaching. You can see more about my programs. I've got a fantastic online program called Shine, which is a 28-day virtual coaching program, which is available on a sliding scale and has 28 podcasts and 28 videos that takes you on this journey to excavate things in your unconscious mind. And this is a perfect time for you specifically to work on such things. And you can also check out my Unleash Your Money Magnet webinar. I'm getting fantastic feedback from this event where people who are really using the tools have been able to blast through blocks within themselves and are having major showings of manifestations of financial shifts. And definitely sign up for my free email newsletter. One of the perks that you get is my email community will get a written version of astrological highlights that are coming up the month ahead. And I often talk about some different things in there that I get to talk about in the horoscope. So there's some supplemental information. So I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you soon. Bye.